Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah. All right. So the reason I wanted to go through this training with you guys, because I kind of had an epiphany over the week, and it's that a lot of people get burned out and discouraged and all of that because they have unreal expectations. Like I've read this before, I've seen this before, and the reason people get burned out 9 times out of 10 is because their expectations are here, but the results are here. And so you only have really two options. You can lower your expectations to what you're actually doing or raise what you're doing to meet your expectations. And so we're going to kind of go through this. And so this is framed. I was going to originally frame this primarily for just FFL because I thought more people were going to be on here, but now I can just frame it across the board, which is good for me because now I can hit everything. But a lot of it is going to apply towards FFL and the way they do things, and just IMOs and companies, even like where we were before. When you look at Primerica, PHPs, PFA, WFG, all that stuff, they all teach you that you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be a business owner, this and that, this and that. That's not true. I figured it out. It's not true. They're telling you that, but you're not really an entrepreneur unless you're doing certain things. What most people fall into the category is self-employed. That's what you are. So you still do have the freedom to, set your own schedule, make your own hours, of course, make as much as you want. You're in control. That is true. But there are differences between being self-employed, being a manager, and an entrepreneur in this world, in this industry, that set them apart. And what you can expect are huge differences, because what they will do is sell you the idea of being an entrepreneur, but really only train you to be self-employed or a manager. They'll still hint on these things, but they don't really explain to you that there are differences and the results are going to be different. So a lot of people end up, especially at the beginning in the self-employed realm, expecting to get entrepreneur results without doing the actions and stuff that it takes to get there. And normally what happens, honestly, is people start off here and then they move here and then they move here. Sometimes it can be in odd orders. I think because I had a business and worked for myself before, I kind of all of this all became mashed up into one. But most people that are coming from W-2s will start off as self-employed and then work their way through. And so when we look at the types of brokers, there's the self-employed, like I said before, the manager, and then there's the entrepreneur. And so with self-employed people, these are the people where they may be full-time. There are some full-time self-employed, but they also may be part-time. Sometimes they'll be like when you look at some of those that are doing real estate or mortgage, and then they're also doing this, they're more or less self-employed. They're not looking to build a business. They don't want to build a team. They don't want to train other people. They just want to sit down and make money, and that's not a bad thing. So the one thing I want to also say about all of these is there is no right or wrong here. You just have to figure out what's right for you and where you currently are, and know that the results and your outcomes and all of that are going to be different depending on where you are. So again, no team here. They also have a very W-2 mindset. What I mean by that is they don't really try to do or learn more outside of whatever they feel their realm is. They rely on others, which I'll go through in a minute. A lot of times they have the mentality of, I want to do as little as I possibly can and get the greatest result, and I want the result now. That's their mindset. And so these people also tend to be very, very discouraged easily, and a lot of times they quit. And so I talked about that reliance on others. So it's good to ask questions, of course, right? We always say, talk to your upline, talk to whoever you can, ask questions, things like that. But when I say rely on others, what I mean by that is they will not make any moves without being explicitly told to do so. They won't do it. So they never really think about, okay, well, what are my goals? What am I trying to do? And let me go out and figure out what I need to know to get to those goals. They don't do that. They're just like, well, and this leads to the next thing, blaming others. Well, they didn't tell me this. They didn't tell me that. Well, they should have done this. They should have done that. When in reality, in this industry, in this business, nobody owes you anything at all. You're not employees. We're not managers. We're not leader, or we're leaders, of course, but it's not like you work for anyone. You're not making them a ton of money. You're not working for, 9.15 while the company makes $100 for every hour you're there. They don't owe you anything. Everybody here that's here to help you is exactly that, here to help you get to where you want to be. But a self-employed person will rely on people and wait. They wait for them to give them the information. They don't actively seek it out. And then when things don't go well, then they're, hey, oh, well, it's not my fault. Nobody told me what I was supposed to do. It's a very W-2 type mindset. And they typically have minimal training too. So these are the people too that you won't really see on the trainings. You won't see, like, when we'll just use Brady's training, Hayda and Nina's training. They have lots of training on YouTube. There's all kinds of training everywhere. But if you ask them about anything other than, just the basics, what's a term and what's a final expense, they won't know. Because they don't really spend any time really digging down and understanding how anything works. They won't look at different ways other than, like, for instance, most people within FFL, the structured guideline is buy leads and sell leads. That's just the basic baseline. Most people won't move past that. That's all they'll do. Even though there's a lot of things out there, there's a lot of different ways that you can network and things like that, they never take the time to actually train themselves to be better agents. They never teach themselves to market themselves. They don't learn anything outside of the most basic things that they need to do. And a lot of times what they're going to do is they're going to work just enough so that they can pay a couple bills here and there, maybe pay their rent and stuff like that, but they're not going to get to the levels that they were expecting when they jumped on the team. And the big reason for most of this is they want to stay in their comfort zone. They don't want to do anything outside of that. They want to do things the way that they've been doing them, their whole lives, or at least for a very long time. And the thing to always remember about that is, if doing what you did in the past worked, then you would be where you wanted to be, right? I say that to myself all the time. Like, I got to keep growing. I got to keep working. I got to keep doing different things, because what I've done in the past has not necessarily got me where I wanted to go. Now, where I am right now with everything that we've been doing lately, Amy's seen this, Vanessa's seen this, Felicia may have, because I think I saw you on one of the trainings. But we have a lot going on right now that I'm thankful for everything that I did in the past, because it got me here. But now I know that relying on my old experiences is not going to help me. Like, I have to look at different ways and different things to move on to the next level. So then let's take a look at what that gets us. For one, it's going to be inconsistency, for sure. Like, your income, your business is going to be inconsistent. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. A lot of it is going to be based off of, how much money you've made in the past. It's going to be hard to get past a certain hump. All of those issues stem primarily from the W-2 mindset and staying in your comfort zone. And this will lead to this. So, you want to make the $10, $20, $30, $40,000 a year. Most people aren't going to be able to do that with that type of mindset. They have a higher level mindset and a higher level of activity. Now, some people don't want to do any of this stuff, no teams, none of that stuff, but they're willing to work hard enough where they can hit that income. But most people, and this is a generalization, most people will have limited income and their results will be inconsistent because they're self-employed and they don't have the discipline to follow a schedule, to do things on a consistent basis. No passive income, because even with, and we're talking primarily Family First Life here and some of the others that are like that, is the renewals from life insurance is not much. The way that you get passive income is by recruiting. And the only way you can really develop a passive income is to sit down, bring people on the team, train them, make sure that they're writing business and that they're actively recruiting as well. And then you can build that passive income. Now, again, Amy, Vanessa, Felicia, I don't know if you're in it yet either, but with the health, you can build a passive income that way. It is possible to do that there, but this is more framed at family first life. Hold on, give me just a second, guys. Okay. All right. Come on. Come on. All right. The next thing is limited growth. Most of the people that are in that realm are not going to grow much as a person either. They don't read, they don't work on mindset stuff, motivational stuff. They don't work on, negative personality traits, things that are going to work against them. And so their growth is severely limited most times. Now, managers, they've moved up. Let's say you've been doing that for a while, but now you think, all right, I got to be better than this. I can't keep paying my bills, worrying about what I'm going to do for rent or how I'm going to pay this bill, that bill. I'm tired of not being able to go on that trip when I want to go on that trip. I want to know that, every month after month, I want to have money coming in, even if it's not a lot. I just want to know that I have something. That's kind of where the realm of managers falls in. And so these will usually be full time, and they actually devote time to training. They look at how to work with people. They look at, how to be better agents, be better brokers. They look at, work ethic, things like that. They sit down, at least an hour or so a day working on their craft or working on their business, something. They're doing something to try to consistently get better day after day, week after week, month after month. The next thing is they create a schedule. That's probably the biggest difference between the managers and the self-employed is those that move into that manager kind of state of mind. They have now learned to manage themselves, and so they can lead others. At this point, they can say, all right, Ian, I'm going to work Monday through Friday. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to start dialing at 8 o'clock. I'm going to dial from 8 to 12. I'm going to dial again from 2 to 6. And this is what I'm going to do every day. And that's what we do every day. And then they can train others to do that because they're doing it. And again, that goes to sticking to the schedule. And then typically they'll have bigger goals. It's about more than just paying your bills at that point. Now it's about, changing your life. I want more for my family. I want to be able to get nicer cars or take trips or donate, or I want to, make sure that I can take some days off and go, spend more time with family, things like that. And they constantly reach out to their upline. Every single one that has been like this, and we'll use senior sales managers with FFL as an example. Everyone I've ever talked to talks to their upline all the time. Like when I talk to Sheila, she talks to Nina and Hayden all the time. Same thing with Deidre. Same thing with, and then on our side, of course, everybody talks to Matt. But and Julius, if they're in some type of leadership role, there's constant reaching out to them. It's not like the leader has to reach out, their upline has to reach down to them. They're constantly reaching up for help. And then the biggest thing is they're willing to help others. So with the self-employed mindset, it is kind of like it used to be cubicles, but now I work from home, I do my work, and that's it. With the managers, they're more willing to help others, whether they're on their team or not on their team. And these are just basic things that all of them do. Now, what this results in is consistency, a lot of personal growth, and increased income. That consistency is definitely going to be directly related to the increased income, and the personal growth is going to help to be better leaders, to help others. And if your downline is now producing and there's a good culture that's been set there and they're bringing in money, and now you have that passive income that everybody's looking for. Because at some point, all of us want to be financially free, right? Mm-hmm. And the only way that you can do that is by generating passive income. And the only way to do that with FFL is to develop a team, or you incorporate something that will create passive income for all of those that are interested in doing health. Now, the biggest thing for a lot of people that actually make this is increased satisfaction in what they do. Because a self-employed person, it's going to feel like a job. Let's make no mistake about it. Like, yes, you don't have anybody telling you what to do, but if you do not work it like a job, you will quit because you won't make any money. So you have to work it like a job. And because you're kind of stuck in that same place. Like, let's say, especially if you're doing telesales, but you go into a call center and you're new on the team and you're just stuck in that position. And you never move into a team lead, you never move into a supervisor, you never move to a manager. You just keep doing the same thing year after year, decade after decade. There are people that actually do that, but their level of satisfaction usually isn't very high. This being like moving up into being a manager is for people that actually have drive, that want to do more, that aren't happy just staying in one spot forever. All right. Why did it jump back to this one again? Okay. Anyway, so the next one is entrepreneurs. So this is what we all strive to be, right? I know that's why I got started. Amy, is that kind of why you got started too? Vanessa down there? I think I saw Willow come on too. Okay. Oh, yep, Willow's in there. We all wanted to be entrepreneurs, but there are specific actions that make you an entrepreneur. Joining FFL, joining HST, joining Life 180 does not make you an entrepreneur. It just means you're self-employed. Having a team does not make you an entrepreneur. It just means that you're building a team. There are certain things that set entrepreneurs aside from everyone else. And that's why I said this, Matt said this, Julius has said this. Entrepreneurs are a higher level being of person than everybody else. They are completely set apart. You have to work your way to get there. It's not like some people are born with it. You know what? I can't say that nobody's born with it. Just most people are born doing these types of things. And it takes a lot of, personal work. It takes a lot of working with mentors and things for a lot of others to get to this point, but it is possible. So let's look at some of the actions here. The number one trait of an entrepreneur is their focus on business building their business, marketing themselves, growing, putting things in place that are going to make their business run smoothly, finding ways to do things that take more responsibility off of them so that they can do other things. I don't know, I think I saw Willow on there, but when Julius was going through what he does in his business, that's a perfect example of that. He has a VA that does his calls. He has this for this. He has Susan that handles back office stuff and does follow up with clients. That's an entrepreneur. That's a business builder right there. He's not out there doing it by himself. And he has a team that he works with and has processes in place to help them be successful too. No work-life balance. This is temporary. So anybody that is an entrepreneur, and I mean outside of what we do, will tell you there is no work-life balance. It doesn't exist. In actuality, the work-life balance, just to be completely honest with you guys, was something that was created to make people feel like it was wrong to strive for more. It was created by employers and people that wanted to keep you at your job. Because if you devoted your time to, okay, I want to be successful, I want to make more money, I want to venture out and do these things, you wouldn't work a 9-to-5 job. You wouldn't. It wouldn't make any sense. You're spending the bulk of your time working for somebody else. After you finish that, you get your drive home, or you take your drive home, you get to spend a couple of hours with your kids, eat for a little bit, and you're praying for the weekend. And they have to make you feel good about that, because at least you have work-life balance. That still seems very unbalanced to me. I think work-life balance 50-50, like half my time at work, half my time doing other things, and being able to do whatever you want to. But the thing is, when it comes to being an entrepreneur and building a business, the no work-life balancing is temporary. It's temporary. It's a lot of work in the beginning. You put in a lot of long hours, but there's a trade-off to that. And that's what most people don't realize. They want that work-life balance at the beginning, but it does not exist. And this is why I say a lot of the reasons why people fail, especially in the beginning, is because they want this entrepreneur life without taking the actions it takes to get there. So like if you want to be, self-employed, you just want to make money, you don't want to do all that other stuff, that's fine. You know what the results are going to be. You want to be a manager? Fine. You can have work-life balance and still be a manager. With an entrepreneur, just know right away, if you want that extraordinary life, you can't do what everybody else is doing. And everybody else is going to tell you, you need a work-life balance. You do not need a work-life balance. Not at all. And to do this does take discipline. And that's something that most people have to work on. I work on it like all the time. Like most of you guys I talked to about that. Like just yesterday, I was like, I'm not feeling it today. I took an undisciplined day. I still closed business. I still did what I needed to do. I powered through that part of it, but I wasn't as active as normal because just like anything else, you can't be disciplined 100% of the time. But if you can be disciplined 80% of the time, you'll win. And that's important to know. Like you can't be disciplined 100% of the time, but you do anything 80% of the time, you will be successful. The biggest thing, and this has to do with getting out of your comfort zone, taking risks and branching out. That's what entrepreneurs do. And that's why I say a lot of people that are with FFL and all these other companies aren't really entrepreneurs because they're not branching out. They're following a set system within a company, and that's all they're doing. That's it. They won't listen to anything else. They won't do anything else. They don't really have a clear goal in mind for their business other than we are FFL. And in my eyes, and this is my opinion here, is they work for FFL. They're building many agencies within FFL, but they're not truly their own agency. Everything they do is dictated by FFL. And so entrepreneurs take risks, branch out. You can still do it within FFL because you can build your agency up and then sell it to, Integrity and then work for them. That is a pathway. But the main thing is you're not going to just listen to what your downline or your upline tells you. You will look out, across the board to find people that are going to help you get to where you want to go to help you reach your vision no matter what. And that's probably the biggest thing is there's not this attitude of, okay, well, I can only work with Matt or I can only work with Julius. An entrepreneur doesn't think that way. They think, who do I need to talk to get what I need? And you can see that clearly with who did well in telesales at the very beginning. I was one of them. Like I was one of the few. Like everybody was struggling with it. People, even on our own team, were jumping in. I think you remember this, Amy, right? Where people jumped into telesales and then they jumped back out and then everybody was bashing telesales and all this. Yeah. And I was like, screw every last one of you. Like, yeah. No. And I stopped talking to Julius. I stopped talking to Matt. I wouldn't talk to anybody. You know who I talked to? Ryan Reynolds and Josh Williams. That's who I talked to. And I just kept talking to them, getting scripts from Ryan in particular, working on things with him, doing tie downs, all these different things with him. And then I ended up getting to a point where I was actually good at telesales. By the time all of you guys got the telesales script, I had been using it for 3 months because I was creating it with those guys. So when they handed me the script, I was like, oh, I already used this script. And I handed it back to them. And they're like, well, what? And it was because of this, taking risks and branching out. I knew what I wanted to do when I went out and got it. And you guys have to think about that is, are you actually reaching out and branching out so that you'll be able to achieve what you're actually setting out to do? Or are you kind of just sitting back and saying, okay, well, I'm going to just wait for them to tell me what to do? And this is a big one too. Every entrepreneur I know reads and learns new things. They read books, they watch podcasts, they're watching different material based on either building businesses, marketing businesses, ways to make more money, mindset, how to be a better agent, what this product does, what that product does, how you can use this one, because they're constantly trying to figure out ways to get better, to be more efficient, to grow their business. And then this is what I was talking about before, is they seek out others to grow wherever they may be. Whether it's, within FFL, outside of FFL, a lot of people go to different, groups. I think, what did Matt say that he's doing? He's like doing in some kind of speaking club and stoic club or something like that. Stoicism. Yeah, they're always trying to find different ways that they can become better versions of themselves. That's going to help their business grow. And so you got to think about it. Am I doing these things? And then this is number one, as far as I'm concerned. Number one is focus on business building, but to get there, you have to do this, and it's act at the speed of instruction. I can quickly spot out who to work with and who not to based off of that. I can tell who's going to be massively successful quickly and who's going to take some time based off of that. Matt can tell that too, and so can Julius. When someone says like, okay, well, I want you guys, if you're going to do 200, 300 calls per day, get with me, send me, let me know and send me your calls on a daily basis, and then nobody does it. Well, the couple people that do it are the ones that are going to get the help, right? The ones that don't. And it shows your level of desire to get to where you're going. Because here's the thing, if you are actively trying to get better at something and you're sitting there listening to people tell you what to do, but you don't do it, are you sure that you really want to get there? Or is it that you just want to feel good, like you learned something? Like, which is it? Because there are people that join these just for entertainment purposes only. Like, they like that dopamine hit. Like, yeah, I learned something that most people don't know. Oh yeah, I got this mindset. I'm working on my mindset, but they never actually put it into practice. They have a lot of knowledge that they just don't use. It just sits there. And then the third number one, getting out of your comfort zone. And that is going to be the biggest struggle for everybody, because the comfort zone will keep you where you are, and it is the hardest fight that anyone ever has to go through. And it can be manifested in a lot of different ways, and it could be for a lot of different reasons. But the best way I like to explain it too is that it's kind of like looking at a thermostat in your house. If things get too hot, it cools it down. If it gets too hot, it cools it up. Like, it always keeps you at a certain spot. And so in order to grow, though, you have to keep turning the thermostat up higher and higher and higher and higher. And when we're trying to do that with ourselves, everything will drag us back. Past experiences, our moods and feelings, relationships, kids. Like, there'll always be something trying to pull you back to where you were. And that's always the biggest fight that we have to go through as business owners, as entrepreneurs, in life in general, if we're trying to grow as people, is getting out of our comfort zone. And then they also train new leaders. And all of this they do typically because the goal is bigger than themselves. So at this point, they're not just thinking about their family. They're not just thinking about, their bills. They're thinking about, what can I do to make the biggest impact for others? How can I help others get to where they want to go? And these are the ones that become massively successful because the focus is no longer on themselves. They already become managers. They already have passive income. They don't really have to worry about that. They know they can close business. And now all they really want to do is help the next person get to that level, and the next person. They want to help more families in the field. They want to help more agents come in. They want to bring more people and show them a better way to do things. So what are the results of this? Because I know it looks like a lot. Like, there's a lot that goes into being an entrepreneur, right? But hey, one thing I got to ask everybody here is, if being an entrepreneur was easy, don't you think everyone would do it? Right? Exactly. But it's not easy. None of this stuff over here is easy. That's why this is the last kind of stage in this. This is the boss right here. The boss level is entrepreneur. But it'll give you unlimited growth as a person. And sometimes it's reflected in, how you work with others, how you work with your kids, how your business grows. It'll be, once you get to this level where you've mastered these things, it will affect every asset of your life, every relationship that you have, especially when it comes to, raising your kids and things like that. The way that you handle stressful situations, all of it will get dramatically better once you've mastered these things. Unlimited income now, because now you're constantly looking at ways to not only build your business and, create that passive income, but actively looking at ways to make your money grow for you. So it's not just about, I made a bunch of money in FFL. Now you may be looking at, okay, well, I want to do real estate. I want to do this. I want to do that. Constantly looking at ways to grow your money, and using, insurance or whatever you want to, or like I should say, like life, health, wealth, whatever mode of doing business that you're doing, you're using that as a way to further other things outside of that as well, diversifying, building your foundation, making sure that you can build the life that you're looking to do. The biggest thing, and this is my biggest thing, is unlimited options. I said this previously, and what I was saying was, me personally, I had to figure out what my why was. And I do it on a constant basis. I keep drilling it down and drilling it down and drilling it down and drilling it down. And finally, I got to the most base reason why I feel it's important for me to be successful at this, and what keeps me moving and what will keep me moving is that I don't like being told what to do. I hate it. I hate things being dictated to me. I like to have options. Now, what's the biggest determining factor as an adult as to what you can and cannot do? It's money, right? Money tells you what you can and can't do. Like if you want to go to Hawaii and, well, guess what? You don't have the money to do that. Now you got to save money, and it's going to tell you when you can go and how long you can be there. I don't want money being able to tell me anything. If I want that car, I'll go get that car. If I want to take that trip, I'll go get that trip. If I want to invest in this particular stock, or I want to invest in this real estate, or I want to buy this house, or I want to help this person, or I want to donate here, I want to be able to do that with no restrictions. I want to live a life that's actually free. That's my biggest thing: options and freedom. Now, what happens, because I didn't come to that conclusion right away, is that you're going to have to think about, because what you're going to say your why is going to be very, very surface level at first. Even if you say my kids, that's a very surface level answer. That's what everybody says. Like when somebody tells me that, I'm like, okay, well, what about your kids? Like, let's dive into this. What about your kids is going to keep you working? Because for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years, you've been doing exactly what you're doing, and guess what? Your kids are still here. So what about your kids? Like, let's dive into it. And then from there, it's okay. You know, everybody's going to be a little different. Oh, well, I want my kids to have more than I had as a kid. Okay. Well, do they already have that? Or what do you need to do to provide that? And why is that important? You have to keep asking those whys and drill down and drill down and drill down. And those are the types of things that'll keep you moving. Exponential passive income. So if now you're able to not only do this, but teach others to do that as well, and teach them how to teach others how to do that as well, your income will never go backwards. Never. You may have some setbacks, but one of the funniest things that I ever saw was Andrew Taylor talking about when he had that $100,000 of debt that got pushed up to him and how upset he was about it. And what he said was, he went to Mark Mead, and Mark told him, well, how much money did you make this year? 800,000. And he's like, so you made $700,000 then. Are you okay with that? And he was like, oh, well, I didn't look at it that way. Like that's mostly from passive income, from his downline to closing business, closing business, closing business. And so once you get to that point, you will hit a point of no return where your income is just going to grow without you doing much of anything. And then what you get from it is a no work-life balance again, but in the opposite direction. So I wanted this to come up before I explained the correlation here. So in the beginning, what happens with entrepreneurs is they spend most of their time and most of their mental energy working for about 2 to 5 years typically. They'll be absorbed in this. But after that, now they can enjoy their life without having to worry about work anymore. They're willing to give up 2 to 5 years so that they can spend the rest of their life doing what they want to do. Now, just quick show of hands, how many people would give up 2 or 3 years so that they could spend the rest of their life doing what they want to do? Oh, okay, I saw you down there, Vanessa. I was like, Vanessa, just stay at your job then. Fine then. We're not friends. Exactly. And it'll take that kind of drive. Now, let me make something very, very clear for those of you that know me. I'm a freak. Do not think that you have to work like I do. Do not think that. That is not true. I love what I do to a degree where it's an obsession, and it is my hobby. And Matt's the same way. So don't think that you have to work like us, because this is our hobby. Where they say you need to get a hobby, I have a hobby. Business is my hobby. Insurance is my hobby. I enjoy it that much. And so you don't necessarily have to work to that degree, but you do have to know that you're going to have to spend a lot of time putting in work in order to get your life back. And like a perfect example is, Vanessa, can I kind of share what you're going through right now? I'm gonna guess that's a yes. She's like, I don't know what he's gonna say because I did not talk to her about this ahead of time.
Put her on the spot, Ian.
Yeah, that's how you win. All right. Anyway, so right now, and most of us have gone through this. This is why I say this. But right now, she works a full-time job, and she's going through contracting with FFL. She's going through contracting with the health side. She's going through all the training stuff, all of this stuff. So her workday is crazy long because she's training at a new position too on top of that. So she has all of this stuff going on all at the same time. That's not work-life balance. It's not going to be that way. Then after that, sorry to tell you, Vanessa, but you're going to have to go through another period of learning the job and learning this and learning that. It's going to go on like that for a while. Not forever, but for a little while. But then once you get it down, then you don't have to worry about that stuff because at that point, you won't really have to worry about a 9-to-5 job anymore. You won't have to worry about, how you're going to pay your bills or anything like that anymore. Like everything's taken care of by all that work that you put in before. And now bills are not a worry anymore. All you have to worry about is, okay, let me see what I want to do to build on this. Let's see if I can build up others. Let's see if I can become a leader. Let's see if I can become an entrepreneur. Hey, I want to own a house. I want to rent out houses now. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to change what my kids see me be. I want to be the best version of myself. All of that stuff changes, but to get to that point, you have to work your butt off. Me personally, I made the decision, and most people are going to be like, blasphemy. I don't want to dial anymore. I am like the most stubborn person about things. Me and Matt actually kind of got in a conversation about this because I was like, I don't want to dial anymore. And he's like, well, you know how Matt can be like, well, I know you say that, but I was like, look, I'll get leads here and there and I'll dial here and there, but that's not going to be my primary focus. And Julius had said that he had tried lead generation. It didn't work and things like that. The reason it didn't work was because Julius just didn't do it long enough. Like, I know Julius. If Julius really put his mind to it, it would have paid off. It's just he must not have seen value in it and then just, hey, this is working, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get it.
What do you mean lead generation?
So this is like building a Facebook business page and generating leads that way. So creating your own ads and sending them out and having people put themselves on your calendar and stuff like that. There's a way to do it with LinkedIn. There's a way to do it with just general marketing. There's a way to do it with networking and also with working within your own warm market. And so that's what and referrals, like I went over the last meeting. So my strategy personally is to have a website presence, all of that, but also be able to network with people and talk to them face to face and build my network that way. Network with business owners, work my own warm market because now I do health and I can talk to people about that. As I'm talking to people, get referrals so that I'm not sitting dialing every day, all day. Because it's good to do that at the beginning so you learn work ethic. But now I've shifted, and this is where I hope that you guys want to be too, is I shifted from wanting to do tedious, monotonous work to working more doing meaningful work. That's what changed. I just like dialing in itself isn't bad. It's what you need to do to work, to survive, to make money. But I don't want to just dial and wait for people to pick up the phone all day. I would rather spend the bulk of my time on appointments. And that's what I'm working to do. But to do that takes these two things. I have no work-life balance at all and a crazy amount of discipline. But my hope is that by the end of the year, it eliminates the problem of wasted time in my eyes. I view dialing as a waste of my time because the majority of your time is spent dialing. Now, you still do get a big payoff because if you hit certain dial numbers and you spend a certain amount of time doing that, you're still going to be making about anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 per week. That's not bad. That's a good thing. I'm not putting down dialing by any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that I've been doing it long enough that I would rather spend the most, like, and there's a trade-off. I want to make sure that everyone's clear on this, because I've seen people try this without understanding this. Is dialing is important, and you should, before you try what I'm talking about, you should make sure that you save enough money to do something like this. I don't mind struggling and scraping in the dirt to get to what I want to, but most people can't handle that. So don't do it right away. However, there will come a point in time where you have enough money saved up where you can start putting together strategies that are going to pay off over the long run. It may take 6 months, 7 months for you to really get it down to where it's really cranking and really working. But at that point, the majority of your day is not going to be sitting there on Zoom, dialing 300, 400 dials a day. You won't have to do that. There'll be people on your calendar. There'll be referrals that you need to call. There'll be, people that you need to follow up with. If you're doing annual reviews, that'll start piling up too, where you get more referrals. This business was never created, honestly, to buy leads and sell leads for the rest of your life. The way it's designed is designed not to do that. It's just most people don't teach that, and most people don't really encourage and train to that. It's more like, hey, how much did you spend on leads? What are you doing for your lead spend? What are you doing? Which leads are you buying? Like, that's what they're focusing on, without really getting to the point that if you're doing this correctly and if you're trained correctly, over time, you should not really need to buy that much in leads. The money you're spending on leads should be going down, not up, after a certain point. All right. And the biggest payoff is an unmatched lifestyle, like we were talking about before, being able to do what you want, when you want, and being able to do it without any restrictions. And you decide what your unmatched lifestyle is. Improve family life. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, because when you do this and you become this disciplined and you get yourself under control in such a way that you can really be successful as an entrepreneur, your family life greatly improves. You learn how to deal with your husband, wife better, significant other better, children better. Everything becomes better. And then you can also look at ways to create generational wealth. I know that's something that I want to do. Some of you out there may want to do that as well. You don't want your kids to struggle, but what does that mean? To me, it means, hey, I have the money to help my kids and the knowledge to train them on how to start their own businesses and what to do, and I can help them kickstart that. I'm not giving my kids money. That's not my thing. But I will invest in whatever they're trying to do so that they can build their own company and develop their own wealth. And then the ability to really make a difference. That's definitely my thing. Is I want to be able to donate. I want to be able to build community centers. I want to be able to do a lot of things that you just can't do without money. Some of you may want to do that as well. But again, entrepreneurs are in a unique position where they can do those types of things. And a lot of times that's going to be write-offs too. All right. So what to do? Now, these are questions. This is probably one of the most important parts, because you're going to need to ask yourself these questions to figure out where you currently fit and what you're trying to do, or where you're trying to go from here. And you have to realistically think what it's going to take to do that. And again, going back to what I said at the beginning, the reason that this is so important for everybody is that if, let's say, you're like, I'm working like I'm self-employed, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want that lifestyle, I want this, I want that, and you look at what you have to do to get there and you say, I'm not willing to do that, well, now you just need to be realistic and say, all right, well, what I really want to be is self-employed, so that you can be happy. Because what's important is for you to be happy, and you will never be happy with self-employed actions expecting entrepreneur results. You won't be happy because there's a discrepancy there. Same way with manager. You will not be happy as a self-employed actions with wanting manager results. There are things you have to do to get there. And if you're not willing to do that, you're going to have to get self-employed results. And there's nothing wrong with being self-employed, but you have to bring your expectations down if that's where you're at, and that's what you're willing to do. And I know that there's certain things that were on that entrepreneur list where you're like, I'm not doing that. Fine, then don't do that. Stay in the manager level, stay in the self-employed level. You can still make $400,000 a year self-employed. You can do that. It's possible. Now, you're not going to have work-life balance. I'm going to tell you that much. So that entrepreneur part is going to get thrown in there, but you could easily make $100,000 part-time. You could do that, full-time, self-employed stuff, but you still have to be disciplined to act as if it's actually a job and do what your boss success tells you. And hey, I got to buy X amount of leads. I got to call these many leads per day. I need to set this many appointments, and I need to close this many appointments, and I'm going to follow this formula no matter what. You still have to be a good employee because you only get paid based off of how you perform in this scenario. So am I happy with my life the way it is now? Now, how many of you are actually legitimately happy with your life the way that it is right now? Anybody? Who thinks that they would like their life to be a little bit better? I know I do. I definitely do. Felicia, put 2 hands up. And so that is the number one question that you need to answer, because if you're happy where you're at, then stay where you're at. It's all about happiness. You only get one life. If you're not happy with where you want to be, though, it's time to do something about it. And then think, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? It's a common question, but you really need to think about these things and really take it seriously. Like, do you want to have a new home? Do you want to live in a new state? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to say, hey, I've got this off my bucket list? Like, what do you want it to look like? Write it down. And then, is what I'm doing enough to get to what I want my life to look like? That is going to be a huge question for most of you, and slap in the face for some too. Am I doing enough? And be completely honest with yourself. We're not going to be sharing these with the rest of the class or anything like that. This is for you to look at and be honest with yourself. What price am I willing to pay? You have to soul search on this one, because now you have an idea of what it's going to take to do each type of thing. You're going to set goals. For those that haven't set goals yet, I think everybody here has. I think, Vanessa, we still have to go through that at some point. But you have to figure out what your vision is. Set goals. Set a plan in motion. And then decide, is that a price you're willing to pay? If it's not, then just bring your expectations down. You're going to have to do one or the other. Work harder or bring your expectations down, one or the other. And then if you say, okay, well, I'm not really willing to pay that price, then you have to think about this. What goal is important enough to pay that price? What will actually get you moving to do more than what you're doing today? What's holding me back? That's a big one. What is holding me back? And actually, going back to what is holding me back, I think this may be a later question, but the other thing is, you have to understand that any excuse that you give, no matter what it is, it could be your kids, it could be your health, it could be, the lifestyle you currently lead, it could be your current job, whatever it is, it's valid, 100% valid. Whatever your excuse is, it's valid. But now what? So what? That's what it comes down to. Like, oh, I have to take care of my kids. Okay, you have to take care of your kids. Now what? What are you going to do about it? That's where you have to figure out what's holding you back at this point and be realistic about it, because sometimes when you just look at it from that lens, there may be something you can do about it. Sometimes there's not, and that's what you have to be able to figure out. And then this is a big thing, because even though you hear it all the time about not comparing yourself with others, everybody's going to do that at some point or another. It's going to happen. To just say, like, I'll never compare myself to others, I'm running my own race, that sounds very nice on paper, but it's just not how human nature works. Come on, guys, we know that. We're always comparing ourselves to other people. But if you're going to do that, do it productively. Like, instead of saying, like, well, they got this and I want to be there, but I'm not, and it's not fair, Just think about this. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Why not have a conversation with them and figure out what they're actively doing right now and figure out what you're not doing? And then see if it's something that you're willing to do to get to where they are. If you are willing to do it, do it. If you're not willing to do it, then just know, okay, well, they're where they're at because they're doing something that I just don't want to do. And then what excuses do you make and what can you do about them? This is what we just talked about earlier. Like I remember when we were working at the old company, Amy, you may have remembered this. Well, maybe not. Were you there before I started bringing my kids to the office? Or was I already bringing them in when you got there?
You know, I don't know. I just
You're like, they
remember.
kind of were just always there.
Yeah,
So
I saw him
what
a lot.
happened early on was I wouldn't come into the office very often. And Matt told me, hey, Ian, why aren't you coming to the office? You know, we have some stuff to go over. And I would always say, I got my kids, I got my kids, I got my kids. Finally, Matt was like, well, bring your kids. And I was like, I could do that. He was like, sure. And after that, I was in the office every day, had my kids with me. They ate their dinner there, did their homework there. Like they lived there and they watched me work. They became like the office kids at that point. If you remember, Amy, they were always there on certain days. Like everybody knew my schedule with my kids too, because they were always there on those certain days.
Yep.
And so that's the way it is with any excuse. Just because it's there and people have this negative connotation on excuse, like an excuse is an excuse, reason is a reason. They're pretty much the same thing. It's just, what are you going to do about it once you've identified what the issue is? You know, hey, is there somebody that you can call to take care of your kids if it's about that? Oh, if it's, you know, your health, is there something that you can be doing to further your goals and ambitions that may not be sitting on the phone talking to people all day, every day? I know when I was still sick with COVID and pneumonia and took up to that stupid respirator machine, I didn't just sit there and do nothing. I watched a ton of videos. I got contracted. I, you know, was writing out scripts and downloading scripts and practicing in my head because I couldn't really talk. Like I was still doing things. I just couldn't necessarily do everything that I wanted to do. So sometimes your excuses will be used so that you don't do anything at all, when, yeah, you can still do something, just not to the full extent, but something's still better than nothing. Oh, I must have been thinking of health. But who can I turn to for help, not from hell? I don't know why I wrote that. But yes, you can always think about who you can turn to help you out, because it may not be your upline. And maybe you're watching a podcast and somebody really resonated with something that you're going through and they worked through it. And that's a person you need to talk to. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to reach out to them or just keep it to yourself and see how things go? And then is there anything I can do to add to my chances of success? And that kind of leads to where now we're doing life, we're doing health, and then we're doing the wealth building all combined, because it does allow you to use your entire license. And when I was looking at this, I want to be able to take advantage of everything. I don't want to leave any meat on the bone. I want to be able to be the full service broker, agent, advocate for my clients. And a perfect example of that was just recently, I did one where I set them up with a plan through the ACA where they didn't have to pay for anything, took care of their dental and their vision. I got them a Mutual of Omaha IUL policy. And then another friend of mine that had an IUL, well, she was a friend now because she's been a client of mine for 4 years, but she had an IULE and I moved her over to an infinite banking policy. Now you can do anything. And just to let you guys know, I did very minimal dialing last week. I didn't dial at all yesterday. I didn't dial the day before, and I didn't dial the day before that. All I did was I reached out to certain people and was doing annual reviews with them, and it was uncovering things that I could do. And I was just telling people, hey, well, I do health now. Hey, I do this now. I have like another 2 infinite banking appointments set up. And then I still have to send my messages out to the people that are my clients and the people that said that they have insurance to see if they're interested in health, so I can start running those appointments. And so, yeah, if you're really trying to be successful, why limit yourself to just one thing when you can have 3 things? 3 things is better than one thing, right? 3. Better than 1? Yes, no, yes, no. Everybody's gonna go 3? 3? Everybody hold up a 3 if you'd rather have 3. If you just want 1, then just put 1. Okay, 3, 3. I can't see what Willow's doing down here. Let me see. Did you hold up a 3 or did you hold up a 1, Willow? 3? All right, yes. 3 is better than 1. And so definitely focus on, and just, I want to preface this with, as you're making the transition, and this is for all of you that are already doing this, make sure that you're focusing on making money first, whether that's with FFL, side, whatever you need to do. Make sure your bills are getting paid. And what you'll want to do when you're adding on to it is do it after hours. Do it on the weekends. Like today, I did a little bit of work, read some books. I'm going to work on a couple of things and then go about my day. But that's where you really want to spend that time unless you have money saved up to do it. But hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit, kind of puts things in perspective, because really, when it comes down to it, the main point that I wanted to make with you guys and explain with you guys is this, is I don't want anybody to get unhappy to the point where you quit. And the way that you'll quit and the way that you'll just feel like this isn't for me, this isn't what I want to do, is when your expectations don't match your activity. When your expectations are too high and your work ethic is so low and the things that you're willing to do is so low that it's impossible for you to get there. And sometimes it's not just how many dials you're doing, it's a lot about mindset. Like the moment you start saying, oh, I don't want to do this, or I wouldn't do this, or I'll never do this, or I never did this, you're gonna struggle, because you're keeping your mind in a place where you're doing the level of activity to stay exactly where you are. And what most people don't realize is moving slightly out of that every time they break that mold. Like instead of saying like, well, I never did that before, like, okay, well, I can do that. I'll give that a try. All right, I'll see what happens. The more you think like that, the higher up you're going to move, where your activity levels and the way that you do things is going to shift into more of a more productive way of thinking to get to where you want to go.